7 years of marriage. I gave everything to her and her family. Sacrificed more than most men ever would. I thought we had life figured out. Then, one Tuesday night, I stayed late at the office and caught a glimpse through a half-open door that destroyed everything I believed in. I didn't shout, didn't storm in. What I did next was far worse. My name's Travis Reynolds. I'm 43. 2 months ago, I thought I had it all together. A good job as a supply chain manager at TechFlow Industries in Indianapolis. Steady pay, solid benefits. I'd been there 11 years, climbed from inventory control to running the entire Midwest supply chain. I met Jennifer Walsh 8 years ago at a company mixer. She was 30, recently divorced, working as an administrative coordinator in the executive offices. Blonde hair, sharp green eyes, a smile that could warm you up or cut you down depending on her mood. She had a 9-year-old son named Brandon from her first marriage. Her ex had vanished to California years ago, sent child support, nothing more. We started out as friends. Coffee breaks, small talk about work and life. 6 months later, we were dating. A year after that, I proposed at a vineyard just outside the city. She said yes, and I thought I'd finally done something right. Brandon was 11 when we married, quiet kid, always glued to his phone or games. I tried with him. Went to his basketball games, helped with homework, taught him practical things, changing a tire, checking oil. But there was always a wall between us. Polite, never rude, just distant. Like I was a guest he tolerated, not a stepdad he trusted. Jennifer would defend him. He's been through a lot, she'd say. Give him time. So I did. 7 years of it. The wall never came down. Jennifer and I settled into a rhythm. We both worked at TechFlow, though in different buildings. I was in operations, she was in corporate about a quarter-mile away. Sometimes we carpooled, met for lunch, talked about our days over dinner. From the outside, we probably looked solid. 2 years ago, Jennifer got promoted, executive assistant to Stephen Carter, the VP of operations. Corporate type. Expensive suits. Big words about synergy and paradigm shifts. Been with the company over 20 years. Jennifer said he demanded a lot, and I believed her. That's the thing about trust. Once you give it, you don't go searching for reasons to take it back. You assume the person you love is who they claim to be. But then the late nights started. The way she'd angle her phone when texting. The distant look when I reached for her hand. I told myself it was stress, that she was just adjusting to her new role. I was wrong. And by the time I realized it, everything I thought I knew was already gone. It happened on a Tuesday in late April. I remember because we'd just wrapped the quarterly inventory audit. The office was nearly empty by 6. Just a few people finishing up and the cleaning crew starting their rounds. Jennifer texted around 5, said she'd be staying late with Stephen, working on a board presentation. Nothing unusual. Lately, that had become routine. I told her I'd stay late too, get some paperwork done. By 7:30, I was finished. Saved the reports, shut down my computer, stretched. The fluorescent lights buzzed faintly, making everything feel slightly surreal after hours. I grabbed my jacket and headed for the exit. That's when I passed Stephen Carter's office. The door was closed, but the blinds were tilted just enough to see through if you walked by at the right angle. And I did. Jennifer sat on the edge of his desk, legs crossed, laughing. His hand rested on her knee. Her fingers brushed his shoulder. They were close, too close for anything professional. Then she leaned in and kissed him. Not a peck. Not something you could excuse. A real kiss, slow, familiar. My stomach dropped. He kissed her back, his hands sliding up her waist, hers tugging at his collar like it wasn't the first time. I froze. My heart pounded in my ears, breath caught halfway up my chest. Part of me wanted to burst in, to flip his desk, to demand answers. But I didn't move. Instead, I took out my phone and snapped a photo. Just one. Clear enough to tell the story. Her face lit by his monitor's glow, his eyes closed, her hand pressed against his chest. No misunderstanding it. I backed away quietly, walked to my desk like I was running on autopilot. Sat down and stared blankly at the monitor. The framed photo from our anniversary sat beside it. Jennifer in her favorite red scarf, me grinning like the happiest man alive. That smile now felt like the punchline to a cruel joke. I didn't yell, didn't tell anyone. I just packed my things, slipped the photo into my bag, and walked out. When the elevator doors slid shut behind me, it felt like they were closing off a part of my life I hadn't meant to end. Outside, the parking lot was silent. I walked to my truck, sat behind the wheel, and just gripped it with both hands. The man staring back at me in the rearview mirror didn't look familiar. By the time I turned the key, my mind was steady. I wasn't confused. I'd seen the truth with my own eyes. There was no mystery left, only a choice. I wasn't staying. I didn't drive home right away. Instead, I went to Ryan's place on the east side of town. Ryan Foster had been my best friend since college, the kind of guy who knew when to listen and when to hand you a beer and keep quiet. It was almost 10 when he opened the door, took one look at me, and stepped aside without saying a word. He grabbed 2 beers from the fridge and dropped into his worn recliner across from me. "You look terrible," Ryan said calmly. "Jennifer's cheating on me," I answered flatly. "With Stephen Carter. I saw them tonight in his office." Ryan didn't react much, just nodded, took a sip, leaned back. "You sure?" he asked. I showed him the photo on my phone. He studied it for a moment, then handed it back. "What are you going to do?" "Leave," I said. "Tonight. I'm not going back there." "You've got a place to stay here," he said immediately. "Stay as long as you need." I spent the night on his couch, barely slept. Just lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. The late nights, the distance, the way she'd sometimes look right through me like I didn't exist. All the things I'd ignored because I wanted to believe we were okay. By morning, I knew exactly what had to happen. No yelling, no begging for explanations. I'd walk away clean and let the fallout land where it should. Around noon, I drove back to the house. Jennifer's car was gone. Good. I didn't want to hear whatever excuse she'd come up with. I went inside, grabbed a duffel bag, and started packing. Clothes, toiletries, laptop, important papers. I moved through each room calmly, taking only what belonged to me. On the dresser sat a framed photo from a trip to Lake Michigan 2 years earlier. She was smiling in sunglasses. I was beside her, happy. I picked it up, looked at it for a moment, then set it face down. In the kitchen, I opened the drawer with notepads and pens. I wrote one sentence: "Don't contact me." No signature, no name. Just left it on the table beside my wedding ring. I'd taken it off in the truck the night before. Now it sat there, a small gold circle that no longer meant anything. I stood still for a while, hands resting on the edge of the table, taking in the life we'd built. Her jacket on the chair, the grocery list on the fridge, the coffee maker we bought together 3 years ago. None of it felt like mine anymore. I picked up my bag, walked out the door, and didn't look back. The next morning, I called William Cross, a divorce attorney I'd heard about from a coworker who'd gone through it a few years back. His office was downtown, small but tidy. When I said I needed to file for divorce, his tone didn't change. "Come in at 2, William said. "Bring your ID and financial documents." Ryan offered to come, but I told him this was something I needed to handle alone. William's office smelled faintly of leather and paper. Darkwood furniture, soft chairs. He looked to be in his mid-50s, gray hair, sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. The kind of man who'd seen everything and stopped being impressed by any of it. "Tell me everything," he said, opening a legal pad. I told him the whole story, the picture, the late nights, how I'd started to suspect something. Showed him the photo. He examined it quietly, then nodded. "You want this to move fast?" he asked. "As fast as possible," I said. "Any children together?" "No. She has a son from her first marriage, 17. "Joint accounts?" "Yeah. Checking, savings, 1 credit card. The house is in my name. Bought it before we married, never added her." He jotted notes calmly. "That simplifies things. I assume you'd rather file under irreconcilable differences than adultery?" I thought about it. Part of me wanted to put the truth in writing, make it official that she'd ended the marriage. But another part just wanted it done. "Irreconcilable differences," I said. "No need to drag it out." William went over the process: filing, serving papers, the waiting period, division of assets. He didn't sugarcoat a thing. Before I left, he gave me practical advice. Start separating your finances. Move half the joint savings into a new account. Don't clean it out, just protect your share. Change your passwords. Freeze shared credit. Do it quietly. That afternoon, I opened a new account at a different bank across town, transferred half our savings plus my last paycheck, changed every password, set up credit alerts. Piece by piece, I started dismantling the financial life we'd built. I also filed for 2 weeks of personal leave at work. I'd earned it and rarely took time off. The HR manager didn't ask questions, just processed the request and told me to take whatever time I needed. By the time Jennifer realized what was happening, I'd already be gone, and that was exactly the point. I could imagine the moment she walked in and saw the note. I wasn't there, but I could see it in my mind. Her standing in the kitchen, staring at those 5 words and the ring lying beside them like a period at the end of a sentence she never saw coming. Ryan said she started calling that same night. My phone lit up over and over, her name flashing across the screen. I'd blocked her number before I even left the house, so she began using others, new area codes, borrowed phones, maybe some temporary app numbers. I didn't answer once. Just watched as the screen buzzed, went dark, then lit up again, like someone pounding on a door welded shut. Next came the emails. Subject lines like, "Please, let me explain." Some blank, some just her name as if that alone would make me open them. I deleted them all without reading more than the first line. She reached out to Ryan, too. He showed me her message one night while we sat on his porch. Short and desperate. "Ryan, please. I know he's there. I need to talk to him. He's misunderstood. I can explain. Please." I handed his phone back. "Don't answer." "Wasn't planning to," he said, taking a slow sip of his beer. "She's spiraling." "Good," I said. And I meant it. Word spread at work soon enough. I'd filed for personal leave and disappeared without an explanation. Jennifer had to walk past my empty desk every day, field questions, pretend everything was normal while her world quietly collapsed. I heard through someone we both knew that she looked awful, barely sleeping, hardly eating, eyes red from crying. She told coworkers I was dealing with something personal, that I'd be back soon. But she had to know the truth. The ring said everything. A week later, she got served. William had the divorce papers delivered by courier, plain white envelope, her name typed neatly on the front. No return address. Just the legal end of what used to be a life. I wasn't there to see her open it, but I could imagine the moment it hit her. Not when I left, not when I ignored her calls, but when she saw my signature at the bottom of those papers and realized there was no argument to win. It was over. Ryan told me she called him that night, sobbing so hard he couldn't even make out the words. He let it go to voicemail, then deleted it without listening. She reached out to mutual friends, spinning stories about how I'd misunderstood, how she just needed to explain. But most stayed out of it. Nobody wanted to choose sides in a fight they didn't understand. Jennifer had always been good at shaping the narrative, convincing people to see things her way. But this time, silence said more than she ever could, and that silence was mine. 10 days after the divorce papers, the eviction notice arrived. William handled it quietly, by the book. Since the house was mine and she refused to leave, the law was clear. It wasn't about revenge. I simply couldn't live under the same roof with the woman who betrayed me. That house held memories, sure. Lazy Sundays, cookouts, quiet nights on the couch. But it also held ghosts now. The ghosts of what I'd seen through those blinds. And no amount of time could erase that. Ryan was with me when William called. "She's been served," he said, calm as always. "You might want to silence your phone." He wasn't wrong. Within an hour, blocked calls started flooding in. Different numbers, all her. Then a message request through some old app we'd once used to share grocery lists. She was reaching through every crack she could find. I never responded. Not once. From what Ryan heard later, Jennifer broke down when she saw the eviction notice. She called him again, crying, saying it wasn't fair, that I couldn't just throw her out, that she had nowhere to go. She said you were being heartless. Ryan told me one night over pizza. Said she couldn't believe you'd do something so cruel. Heartless, I repeated. The same woman who kissed another man in his office, who lied to me for who knows how long, was calling me heartless for not letting her stay in my house. Let her think whatever she wants, I said. She tried to make it messy, talking about contesting the eviction, claiming she had rights as a spouse. But William shut that down fast. The house had always been mine, deed and all. She'd moved into my home, not ours. Legally, she didn't have any ground to stand on. She could have fought, taken it to court, made it messy, but she didn't. I think she realized there was no winning here. Not with the paperwork, not with the proof, not with the simple, undeniable fact that I was finished. Brandon, her son, ended up stuck in the middle of it all. I felt sorry for him, I truly did. But he was 17, nearly an adult, and he'd never really seen me as more than the man his mother married. I wasn't his dad, never had been. So when I walked away, it wasn't like I was abandoning him. I just wasn't part of his story anymore. Jennifer started packing within a week. I wasn't there to watch, but I could picture her moving from room to room, sorting what was hers from what was mine, trying to divide a life that had already split the moment she kissed Stephen Carter. Ryan once asked if I felt guilty about the eviction, the divorce, cutting her off completely. No, I said, and I didn't. She'd made her choice in that office. I was simply making mine. The difference was that mine came with consequences she couldn't charm her way around. I didn't send the photo to HR right away. I sat on it for a few days, wondering if I wanted to blow up their lives the way they'd blown up mine. A part of me wanted to walk away clean, take the high road, let karma handle it. But then I remembered something. Stephen Carter wasn't just Jennifer's boss. He was a leader, someone others were supposed to respect. And Jennifer, she'd climbed the ladder by playing the game, always saying the right thing, smiling the right way. They both lied. Both pretended to be something they weren't, all while breaking the rules everyone else had to follow. So, on my last day of personal leave, sitting in Ryan's apartment around midnight, I wrote my resignation email. Kept it polite. Thanked them for the chance. Wished them well. The usual. Then I attached the photo. I didn't write a single line of explanation. I didn't need to. The image said everything. Jennifer on Stephen's desk, his hand on her waist, hers on his chest, frozen in a moment they thought was private. I sent it to Jenna Clark, the HR director, 15 years with TechFlow, all business, by the book. If anyone would handle it properly, it was her. I hit send, closed my laptop, leaned back. That was it. I didn't work there anymore. Didn't know them anything. It's done. Ryan asked from across the room. Yeah, I said. It's done. The next morning, Jenna called. Her tone was controlled, but I could hear something under it. Maybe surprise, maybe disappointment. Travis, she said, I received your resignation and the attached image. Thank you for your service. The image will be reviewed according to company policy. That was all. That was enough. Word spread through TechFlow like wildfire. I wasn't there to see it, but the stories reached me fast. Whispers in hallways, people guessing, rumors flying. HR held an emergency meeting, announced a formal investigation. No names mentioned, but everyone knew. A guy from my old team, Derek, texted me 3 days later. Dude, the whole office is losing it. Jennifer and Stephen are both on leave. HR's been interviewing people all week. What happened? I kept my reply short. Just moved on. Fresh start. By week's end, both Jennifer and Stephen were gone, fired. The official statement said something about policy violations and misconduct, but everyone knew the truth. Jennifer had lost her husband, her home, and now her career, all because she couldn't stay away from a man who wasn't hers. One blow after another, and she still didn't see it coming. She thought she could talk her way out of it, explain it all away. But you can't argue with a photograph. You can't spin evidence that clear. There was no coming back from that. Stephen Carter, the corporate golden boy with over 20 years at the company, walked out with a cardboard box and a reputation in ashes. His wife found out, filed for divorce within a week. His kids cut him off. Everything he'd built, gone, because he couldn't keep things professional. I didn't celebrate when I heard. Didn't feel triumphant or vindicated. I just felt done. Like a chapter had finally closed. I never wanted to look back again. Ryan once asked if I regretted sending that photo. No, I told him. They made their choices. I just made sure those choices had consequences. And that was the truth. I wasn't seeking revenge. I was seeking peace. And now, I finally had it. It was a Friday night, about a month after I'd walked out, when I heard a knock at the door. Ryan had gone to Ohio to visit his sister for the weekend, leaving me the apartment to myself. I was sitting on the couch, half watching a game, barely paying attention to the score. The knock came again, steady, deliberate, not angry, just certain. I knew who it was before I even opened the door. Call it instinct. I got up, walked over, and pulled it open. There she was. Jennifer Walsh, my wife. Or ex-wife, depending on how you looked at it. The papers were filed, the waiting period nearly over. She looked smaller than I remembered. Hair pulled back, no makeup, wearing old jeans and a loose sweatshirt. Her eyes were red, like she hadn't slept in days. Please, Jennifer said, voice trembling. Just hear me out. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. There was a time when seeing her like that would have broken me. When I would have let her in, held her, told her we'd find a way to fix things. But that man, the one who forgave, who patched up what others broke, He didn't exist anymore. I stood in the doorway, one hand on the frame, staring at her without blinking. My voice came out calm, even, final. You made your choice, I said. Now live with it. Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, explain, beg, to say whatever she'd been rehearsing for the past month. But I didn't give her the chance. I stepped back and closed the door. Not hard, not dramatic, just a quiet, deliberate close that said everything words couldn't. I stood there for a moment, hand still on the doorknob, listening. No second knock, no yelling, just slow footsteps down the hall and the sound of the stairwell door closing. I went back to the couch, sat down, and exhaled a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. That was it. The final piece of her that had been clinging to me, gone. She'd probably hired someone, asked around, done whatever it took to track me down. Jennifer always found a way to get what she wanted. But this time, there was nothing left for her to win. I thought about what she must be feeling, walking to her car, hearing those 8 words echo in her head, realizing I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was simply done. And that's what she'd never understand. She believed if she could just talk, cry, or explain, she could fix it. But some things can't be fixed. Some betrayals cut too deep. And some doors, once closed, never open again. Ryan called that night from his sister's place. You doing okay? He asked. Yeah, I said. Jennifer showed up. I sent her away. Good, Ryan said. You don't owe her anything. I know, I replied, and I did. I'd given her 7 years. My trust. A home. A life. And she'd thrown it all away for a man who wasn't worth half of what I offered. Now, she was left with nothing but regret and a closed door. And I was left with something I hadn't felt in years, freedom. 2 weeks after Jennifer showed up, something unexpected happened. I got a call from Brandon, her son, my stepson, though that word never really fit. Travis, he said quietly, can we talk? We met at a coffee shop downtown, neutral ground. He was 17 now, taller, more mature. Less of the kid I'd tried to reach for 7 years. I know what happened, Brandon said once we sat down. He stirred his coffee, not drinking. Between you and my mom. I knew before. I saw them together about 6 months ago when you were working late. I didn't know what to do, so I just didn't say anything. The words hit harder than I expected. That kid had carried the truth for half a year, watching his mother lie and staying silent. That wasn't your burden, I said. You were just trying to survive. I should have told you, Brandon said, his voice breaking. You were good to me. You showed up. I wasn't easy on you because I kept waiting for you to leave, like my dad did. But you didn't. Not until you had to. I didn't know what to say. For 7 years, I thought I'd never reached him. And now, after everything, he was opening up. I appreciate that, I said. But you don't owe me anything. You were just a kid caught in a bad situation. He nodded, finally took a sip of his coffee. Mom's been asking about you, he said. I told her to stop. She doesn't get it. She thinks if she explains enough, you'll forgive her. But I get it. What she did, there's no coming back from that. We talked for another 20 minutes. He told me he was enrolling in community college that fall, maybe studying engineering. Asked if I'd write a recommendation letter for a scholarship. I told him I would. When we stood up, he shook my hand. Firm, steady. Thanks for trying, he said. I know I didn't make it easy. Take care of yourself, Brandon, I said. That conversation closed a door I didn't even know had been left open. Meanwhile, Ryan and I had been revisiting an idea we'd tossed around since college, starting our own consulting firm. Operations and logistics for small to mid-sized businesses. Nothing extravagant, just solid work done at fair rates. Our evenings were spent sketching out the details, business plan, possible clients, startup expenses. Ryan had a bit of savings, and I still had my severance from TechFlow, along with half of what Jennifer and I had once built together. We combined everything and filed for the LLC. By the end of that month, Foster Reynolds Consulting was officially born. At first, we operated from Ryan's garage, 2 laptops on a folding table, whiteboards leaned against unfinished walls. Within 3 weeks, we landed our first contract, a manufacturing company in Fort Wayne that needed help optimizing their supply chain. The work was straightforward and honest, something created by my own choices and effort. No office politics, no lies to navigate, just clear issues that demanded clear answers. For the first time in months, I felt like myself again, not the man who had lived in Jennifer's shadow, doubting everything, but someone stronger. Someone who finally knew his value. For months after I left Jennifer, I met Amy Davidson. It wasn't something planned or even sought out. It just happened naturally, the way good things tend to when you're not forcing them. Ryan and I had taken on a client in Carmel, a floral supply company looking to refine its distribution process. The owner was Amy, 41, auburn hair, sharp brown eyes that missed nothing. She had built her business from scratch after her divorce 3 years earlier. We met in her office to go over the project. She was direct, asked smart questions, didn't waste a second. I like that. By the end of the meeting, we already had a clear plan. Want to grab lunch? Amy asked as we packed up. There's a good deli nearby. We can go over the timeline. Lunch stretched into 2 hours of conversation. We started with work, drifted into life, and eventually into the messier parts neither of us had expected. She'd been through her own betrayal. Her ex-husband had cheated with someone from their church group. The hardest part, Amy said, wasn't the anger. It was realizing I'd spent years on someone who never valued what we had. Yeah, I said. That's exactly it. After that, we began seeing each other. Coffee meetups, walks along the Monon Trail, dinners at new places. She had a black lab named Duke, a food thief and a comedian, always making me laugh when I came over. Amy was real. No games, no pretense, just genuine, steady presence. She listened when I talked about Jennifer, about the betrayal, about how it had reshaped me. She didn't judge, didn't try to fix it. She just listened. You're not broken, Amy told me one night as we sat on her porch, watching Duke chase fireflies. You just learned to be careful. That's not the same thing. Maybe she was right. Maybe I wasn't damaged, just rebuilt into something tougher. The divorce finalized in early September. The papers came in the mail, official, final. I signed them, sent them back, and that was that. 7 years boiled down to a document and a file number. I didn't feel sadness, not even anger, only relief. It was finished. She was no longer my responsibility. Word got around that she'd moved out of state to start over. Nobody really knew her story. Brandon texted once to say she'd gone to North Carolina and found a job at a small firm doing admin work. He said she seemed lost, still trying to make sense of everything. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. Foster Reynolds Consulting kept growing. By year's end, we'd moved into a real office, hired our first employee, and built a client list that kept us busy 6 days a week. Ryan handled clients. I managed operations. It worked. 9 months after everything collapsed, I found myself in Amy's living room, Duke's head resting on my lap, while a movie played I wasn't really watching. Amy sat beside me, her hand in mine, quiet and warm. You know what's strange? I said. What? She asked. A year ago, I thought I had it all figured out, solid job, decent marriage, stable life. Turns out, it was all built on lies. And now? Amy asked. Now, I've got something real, I said. Something I built myself, something no one can take away. She smiled, squeezed my hand. That's all any of us really want. She was right. I'd lost a job, a wife, and the illusion of a perfect life, but I gained something better. Clarity, strength, freedom, and someone who saw me for who I truly was, without needing me to be anything else. Jennifer had thrown away a good man for a few fleeting thrills. Her loss, my gain, and I wasn't looking back anymore.